welcome back to my farmhouse. Last week we talked about Easter, and we've got more Easter things to do, but next week will be St. Patrick's Day. So we're going to do a little dish. My mother-in-law used to make this dish way back when I had little children, and I haven't had it probably for 3 decades. So when I ran across the recipe, I thought, you know, I'm going to make that. I'm going to slide this one in there between our Easter dishes that we're making. And so we're doing St. Patrick's Day, and St. Patrick, I have a little note here. St. Patrick's Day is known as a global celebration of Irish cultures that conjures up visions of what? Green leprechauns, green everything, right? Green beverages, green foods. I mean, we're just going to go crazy with green here on the 17th when it happens. But it was in 1845 that the potato famine killed over 1 million men, women, and children from starvation because their big crop in Ireland was potatoes. And a potato blight came in and wiped out their crop. So it was really bad for them to find another means of supplying their food source. So we're going to use potatoes today. We've got that out here. And we're going to actually create what we're going to call an Irish potato pancake. Now, it's not really a pancake that we're going to put maple syrup on, okay? It's something that you can use your leftover mashed potatoes. Like I have a cup here. Okay, so you make mashed potatoes. Okay, so let's say you do this for Easter and you have gobs of mashed potatoes and you have a little bit left. You can use this right in this recipe to use these up versus throwing them away. Now, I'm going to imagine if the potato crop was the Ireland people's main crop, they probably had many, many different ways of making potatoes, right? Because you get burnt out on mashed potato and fried potato or hash browns. So you had to come up with other variations, but this also helped stretch the potato dish. All right, so to get started, the first thing that we're going to do, I'll just move some of my stuff over, is we're going to need a potato. Now, my mother-in-law in her recipe did not use a grated potato, but we're going to do this. We're going to find out how it goes. And so I've washed my potato. This is just a plain white potato. And I just need to clean that off. Now, I could leave that skin in there, and the skin is, you know, as everyone's learning, there's a lot of nutritional value in the skin. But I'm going to take it off because I don't want it to be all brown looking. So, and if you have one of these peelers, and you have an old one, and the little razor blade is starting to get old, this is more of a difficult task, but this is really easy with a new one, which I just got. I finally got rid of the one that I had for years. Okay? And I can see this little potato right here is kind of watery. Okay, so I want to make sure that my little potato pancakes are kind of dry, because when I put them in the skillet, that water is going to make them a little bit soupy. Okay? All right, so now we're going to grate these. Now, I got my little attachment for my KitchenAid, and this is only my second time using it. So we're just going to chop up our potato. This is a very small little entrance here, so I just need to eyeball that. We'll do that in 4s. Okay. And then we'll grab this little bowl here and move the flour. We'll get started here and see how it goes. I'm going to lock my mixer in. I'm going to turn it on, but it works better if you plug it in. Let's plug that baby in. All right, let's see how it goes, okay? This just presses it down so my fingers don't get it. Probably couldn't see that, but it stood up the last little piece that you usually throw away. And there it is in there. So I think as I get more going through there, it'll probably start to come out. Whoops. all over the place. And that one's trapped. Turn that off real quick. Well, you get the gist of that, right? Okay, we'll be right back. Okay, so we got the potatoes all done. We got our little attachment off of there. So the next thing that we need to do is we've got 2 cups of flour that we're going to add. We've got 1 teaspoon of salt. We have 1 teaspoon of baking powder, not soda. So make sure that you know the difference. I do pepper in just about everything, so I'm going to sprinkle a little pepper, about a teaspoon, no more. And then we'll just kind of combine that. And that's only so you don't wind up with the baking powder in one little spot and it doesn't get through all of it. And then while I'm doing that, I better turn on my skillet. I have to keep an eye on that so I don't forget and it gets too hot. That would be bad. Okay. We'll go ahead and put that in here. Now my potatoes are very wet. A russet potato, like a baked potato, this was just a white potato, isn't as wet. So I maybe would use that next time, although she didn't call for anything in particular, just a potato grated. Okay. All right, so we got that in there. We have 1 cup of buttermilk. Now, I am forever buying buttermilk, and then I use it one little recipe, and then the rest gets thrown out because I just don't use buttermilk that much. So to substitute for buttermilk, you take 1 cup of milk and you add a teaspoon of vinegar. Just set that aside a little bit, and it does something with the milk and makes it almost the same for cooking quality. But you can buy the buttermilk. It's not terribly expensive, but I hate it when I don't use it again, and I only use a ½ cup out of it. So we'll go ahead and put this in here. And I'm going to back off on the milk a little bit because we want this to be like a patty instead of pancake batter. Okay, we're looking more for a patty. So let me just back off on there just a little, only because those potatoes were really damp. Okay. I can tell this. It'll be almost like a dough, the recipe says. It'll be just about like a dough. We'll pat it together for St. Patty's Day. All right, I'll be right back. All right, so we're back. We mixed that all up. We added our mashed potatoes. It was a cup of mashed potatoes. Now that is something that you had left over. You could absolutely boil some potatoes on the stove like you normally would do for mashed potatoes, or you just whip up a batch of instant mashed potatoes. And to get a cup, you just do about 4 servings off of the box of Hungry Jack that I used to do that. So we've got this good kind of a doughy consistency going on here. And the recipe then calls for us to put in some butter. We're going to cook in butter into our skillet. Ooh, that's just almost a little too hot. So we'll set that aside for a minute. Turn that down. Now that was on high, so we didn't want to let that butter burn. See that? Woo. Let's see if I can just wipe that out real quick with a paper towel. I'll give it a second there to cool down while we talk about the virus. Okay, so we put our butter into our skillet. It was almost a little bit too hot. I think we're going to be okay. It's kind of a medium-high heat. And then we're just going to create some little patties out of our mixture. Now, I have disinfected my counters, washed my hands 100 times. But you know, we've got this virus going around, so use something like a Clorox wipe. They're right here, they're handy. You wipe things down, wipe off your doorknobs, your phones, your computer. Remember when you're punching in your little key at Kroger, somebody else has punched in before you. You know, be conscious of your hands and where you're at. So we'll just take this little thing and we're just going to roll it in our hands. I remember watching my mother-in-law do that. And we're just going to make a little patty. Now I feel like that is just a little bit too moist, but we're going to try it and see how she turns out, okay? I don't know just going to lay it right in there. Now, if you wanted to, you could certainly add some bacon bits. If you cook slow, you can add cheese. Remember, cheese can scorch very easily, or you can put the cheese on right when you bring it out. Okay. And see, I'm going to add just a little more flour here in just a second because that's just a little too doughy. We'll get one more in there. All right, we'll let this cook a minute. When I flip them, we'll be back to show you. Kind of pat these a little bit to flatten them out so that we don't have any thicker spots. And then we're just going to flip them right on over. Ooh, that's looking pretty nice, isn't it? Really nice. Good. So that's like on a medium-high heat. Again, that was too hot. I kind of turned it up high and then kind of lost track of it, but you didn't want to have it burn. And then I took my, while those were cooking, I went ahead and sprinkled some more flour on there. And as you can see, then I have more of a biscuit consistency. It's not all over my fingers, and that's good. We'd want that like that. And at this point, if you wanted to, you could, if everybody likes bacon bits, you could sprinkle those in there. Bacon bits are not a problem, but you could put them on here and then just kind of work them in because those are going to be good. And then, if you know me, I like green onions on about everything. I don't know why. Particularly, I like the green part. I think I told you that in one of my shows that I couldn't tolerate the hot bulb of the green onion out of my mom and dad's garden. These aren't as hot, but what they raised was hot. And so my dad would eat the green or the white bulb and then pass me over the green, and I'd get that flavor of onion without such a big hot mouthful of onion. And so you could actually put some of these on here and just work them down into your, and you can mix that all in if you wanted to, you know, just kind of guess at that. The cheese, we can do one with cheese. We're going to do one with cheese too. And I'm just going to spread that out and try to get the cheese into the middle because the cheese will kind of burn in there. And I'm just going to flip him over and kind of, and that, see that that's getting a little bit wet again. And that's, I know it's that potato. That potato was very moist and wet. Wet, 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 wet. So that's good. It'll be good. All right, so she doesn't really say in this recipe that I found, how long do we cook it? Good question, right? So our biggest thing is the potato, the grated potato that's in there. We'll go ahead and move our sanitizer so that we don't have to worry about that. That's our biggest thing, and this is cooking very nice and slow, which the cheese will probably work out good if you don't get your heat too hot, you know. So we'll just move that over a little bit to the other side of the pan, and then that'll give me some room right here to go ahead and transfer these newbies right in there. So that's our cheese one, and this is going to be my favorite. I'm going to flip it, my green onion. And this is going to be our little bacon bit one. Okay. All right. While we clean up, those will cook and we'll be right back. All right. So we're back. We've got our little potato pancakes, they're called. I'd call them potato cakes. And St. Patrick, I read also, I wanted to share this, was one of Ireland's patron saints who ministered Christianity in Ireland during the 5th century, which was in the years 400s. So anyway, I dug into my cabinet and I found this cute little, it's green and white, right? It's the only green and white plate I probably have in the house. But it's the little Fairview United Church, you know, the one on the hill if you're headed towards Georgetown from here on 68, there's a little old church. And they had a centennial, so the church started in 1875. And they had a 100-year centennial. So 1970. So we're going to put our little St. Patty cakes onto our little church plate. Those browned really well. They cooked slow. 5 minutes maybe, 6, you know, nice and golden brown. We tested one, so there you go. Sometimes it's good to test something, like get one out and test it, see how it's doing. Is it cooking through? It's kind of biscuity, so you want to make sure that it is cooked all the way through. Now at this point, while that's hot, the side that was up would be chilled, so we could flip that over and get our cheese on there. Maybe add some bacon bits this way, a little cheese on there, and if I had just a few of my onion, which I put my knife into the sink. I think that the onion just makes it festive looking. We could do this with it and serve it on a plate, and you get a little bit of that all in there at one time. And then we put some bacon bits, and we put some green onions, and we put some cheese, rolled it up in there, so the cheese should be in the center. And we'll get those off in just a minute, and then we're going to sample and see how it is. Plate here. You could have a little ranch on the table also if you wanted to use these like a little appetizer. And these have the green onions, the bacon bits, and then the cheese that's wrapped up inside of there. The thicker and the bigger, a little longer to cook, 5 to 7 minutes, kind of. Take one and just kind of make sure that it's not doughy like a biscuit and that it's cooked through. Okay? Well, I hope you enjoy that. I hope you have a great St. Patrick's Day. Wear some green. I should have put a little green food coloring in the batter, right? To make it green. But anyway, see you next time. Bon appetit.
There we go.